So let me just get the screen share ready here so we can go through all of this.
All right, sounds great. So buckle up, everyone, and sharpen your pencils. I will hop into the control room and let you guys take it from here. And feel free, everyone, to jump into the chat and give a shout out to your stores and make sure to get them ready for the end of the session so Jack and Jen can take a look at them and help you guys. All right, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Hans. So yeah, starting out, actually, it does really help when you add a little bit of information with your niche or your product or your brand, or drop your website link. Chuck that in the comments so we can kind of get a read as to what type of businesses we have in here, so we can try and tailor some of these examples. So you drop some comments in there, whether it's your niche or your website link, and we'll get started through some of this. So the reason that we're talking about Facebook is because we've spent quite a lot of money on these platforms. Been running ads for sort of 8 or 9 years, spent over $150 million across Facebook and Google. So we spent a lot of money there. So we've got a lot of learnings, made a lot of mistakes, and had a lot of wins. So we're going to share a bunch of that with you. Also featured on major publications and been a top poster on some of those about Facebook ads and attribution and all that sort of stuff, speaking at events and all sorts of things. So yeah, really this is just a sort of beginner intro to how to get started with your Facebook ads. And let me just get this covered. So this is a brief little outline. So we did go over it, but to recap for some of those guys who dropped in a little bit later, we really want to understand the customer as the number one starting point before you even start making ads, because you want to really understand your customer and your journey and your marketing levers before you even write an ad or publish an ad. Because if you don't know this stuff prior to creating your ad, you're probably not going to write an ad that's going to resonate with the people that you want to actually get to come to your store and make your purchases. So we're going to briefly go over that, and then we're going to go over into how to actually set up your first ad, how to do it in Shopify, how to do it in Ads Manager. We're also going to go into detail about how to organize your Ads Manager, because there's a lot of stuff in there that is really hard to understand. There's a lot of different options in there, so I'm going to help you navigate that so that you can save out some columns, and running ads is going to be much easier for you because you'll know what to look at and you'll know what sort of metrics you should be focusing on. And then we'll go into the live ad or website review. So make sure that you post those at the end. We'll maybe even circle back to some of these and we can go through those as well.
Yeah, and also, Jack, we just ran a poll right now, and it's asking everyone if they've run ads before on Facebook, and we have 75% that said yes and 25% that said no. So those of you who said no, if you guys are hearing any words that you don't understand, put it in the comments. I'm going to try my best to answer as much as I can. And if you have yes, feel free to ask questions on how we can get better or how you can improve. We're happy to answer that too.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so number one is understanding a few basic things about digital marketing. So you have these 3 levers that you can continually pull to increase your performance week over week, month over month. When I say performance, that is usually revenue, because most of you are e-commerce stores in here, I would say. So, you know, revenue and ROI is probably your number one metric. It's kind of like your North Star. So these 3 levers are the things that we constantly see with clients and brands that they should be slowly improving week after week. So the first one you want to focus on is really understanding, let me get rid of that, is really understanding your offer, your ad copy, and your creative. So a lot of the time we like to write avatars, and we can maybe give you a sheet at the end that kind of outlines how we do avatars. But essentially what we do here is we really want to understand who the customer is, what sort of copy is going to grab their attention, what sort of copy is going to make them purchase, and what sort of copy is going to make them click. And then you're going to do the same process with your creative. Oh my goodness. Sorry, we're based in Los Angeles, and there's all sorts of craziness happening here right now. That's my 5 p.m. curfew. And the other thing is the offer. So a lot of stores will start with a super basic offer, such as go and check out my website or go and look at my product. A lot of it is about the brand themselves. And so you need to think, what sort of offer can I give potential traffic, which is someone who doesn't know about your website, they don't know about your brand. How are you going to attract that person to your website from Facebook or Instagram? because people are glued to those screens because they want to keep scrolling through their feeds, checking out what their friends are up to. So you've got to really think about those three things, because these three things are how you're going to grab someone's attention. So think about it: the offer, the ad copy, and the creative. When you are building your avatars or you're planning out some copy to use, I highly suggest writing multiple versions, usually 3 to 5 versions, and then maybe choosing the top 1 or 2 or testing all of them. Now, the reason I say this is because a lot of the time when you think something is going to work, it's not actually what works. So that's why we really want to focus on having multiple options and really digging deep into thinking about who our customer is, how we can talk to them, and how we can attract them. Because our goal of that ad copy and creative is to get someone to click through to the website to then take that next action, whether that action is to add something to their cart, read a article on your product, download something, purchase something, whatever it may be. That ad is no good if you can't get someone to click on it and take that next step. Now, the second lever is the targeting and the traffic. So this is what you have a lot of control over when you run ads. So usually you can scale your brand with paid traffic or organic traffic. Now, organic traffic takes a long time. It's content marketing. It's using Google search engine results to rank your site, and you get traffic from that. So organically, people searching stuff in Google and finding your website. Now, paid traffic makes it a lot easier because you can say, hey, Facebook or Google, I want this exact traffic. And so you can target based off interest. You can use lookalikes. You can use remarketing. You have a lot of control over the targeting and the traffic. Now, what you want to consider is, how do I continually improve the targeting and my traffic that I'm bringing to my website? So I'm going to show you what metrics to look at within your business manager in a little bit when we go and do that live review. And the third step is the website experience. So when someone is gone through the process of clicking on your ad, you've got targeting right, and then they get to your website and the page doesn't load, or they get to your website and it's not related to the ad they saw. So you've really got to think about, when you're creating your ad, okay, does the landing page I'm sending people to make sense? If someone was to click on this ad, would they be expecting this on my landing page? Is my landing page fast enough? If your landing page is not so fast, Shopify usually does a pretty good job. But we do see a lot of clients, for example, they have just too many plugins or unnecessary plugins, or they're using kind of like Facebook chats, or they're pulling in feeds from Instagram and stuff. Think about how you can simplify the apps you've got in there to speed up your site. Using like image compression tools, making sure that your images aren't massive. Like, you don't want to upload like 5 megabyte images. So just think about that website experience, remembering that most of your traffic when you're running Facebook and Instagram ads is going to be from mobile. So it's going to load quickly, and it's probably going to be relatively small in comparison to the desktop, which you're probably looking at your ads on. Now, I like to show people this graph here because it helps paint the picture of hot and cold traffic. So you can think of cold traffic as someone who is completely unaware. They have no idea who you are. They don't know who your product is. They don't know what you sell. They don't know what problem you're solving, or they don't know that they even have a problem. Usually these people are cold traffic. And then it goes through all of the different stages, all the way up to the hot traffic. Now, the hot traffic is someone who's very aware. So they know who you are. They know what product you sell. They're probably price shopping or price comparison, or they're looking around at different competitors and alternatives to see which is the best option for them. So you want to think about this process, and where are you creating your ad in this kind of timeline of that customer journey? Are you creating an ad at the cold traffic level, or are you creating an ad for the hot traffic level? So for the cold traffic, you want to be providing a lot of value. You don't want to be pushing like sales pitches. You want to be creating something that's interesting, shareable, and also going to add value to that person's viewing experience. If you just go straight in saying like, hey, buy my product, to cold traffic, and they don't know what your product is, what it does, or who you are, chances are they're probably not going to purchase. So when you're running hot traffic ads, that's when you want to be really pushing your sales and pushing someone to purchase. The cold traffic, you want to be more informational. So you want to have longer form ad copy. You want to have more educational and demo videos. You want to show like what your product does and how it solves a problem. You want to even explain what the problem is and why your product is the best solution for that problem. So think about that when you're targeting your traffic. So usually hot traffic is remarketing. and cold traffic is usually prospecting. So when we go and create our ads, we want to think about that, and the example is going to explain a little bit more about this as to what type of ads you should use in the cold traffic and what type of ads you should use in the hot traffic. And
one thing I'd like to mention too is I don't know if people really know how important this is. It's so important. Like if you're going to put a 10% off right at the cold traffic, that's really hard to get back because they're going to expect that every single time. But in the cold traffic, you're really just getting them to know your brand. And once they're warm, like that's when you hit them with the deal. That's when you hit them with remarketing. And so it's just really important to know that difference.
Okay. So a few tips in writing ad copy. So first off, we've kind of covered that point of understanding your customer and understanding the warmth of that traffic. Then you really want to call out the problem and how you're solving that with how you're solving the problem with your product as a solution. So in this example, this is an alkaline water company. It's calling out all of the solutions to drinking alkaline water. This is probably focused more towards hot traffic because you can see it's very product focused. It's got a deal in there. It's got multiple links back to the site. It's asking people to take that final step of making that conversion. So this is definitely going to be a hot traffic ad. Now, a few other tips with getting good click-through rates on Facebook. So a good click-through rate on Facebook and Instagram is usually kind of 1% and above. If you're below 1%, you definitely have some room to improve. And again, this is definitely specific on your industry because it will depend on how competitive that traffic is. Another thing that we see works really, really well is using emojis. So emojis are a great way to segment up big chunks of text. You can see here, this is quite a lot of text, but it's easily read when you use these emojis to separate it all out. Call out some of the pain points, call out some of the problems that people might be having. So for example, delivery is a big one for this. A lot we've found from all the customers that delivery was a big reason why people purchased from them and not competitors. So think about your competitive edge. How can you include that in your ad copy? And use scarcity if you can. So scarcity is a great way to get someone to take action. So if you're saying that you've got a limited time deal, you've only got a certain amount of product left, you're looking to only run the deal till this end date, you can add a bunch of options in there to try and get people to take action more quickly. So this works really well when you have holidays. Like for a recent one, there was a lot of sales going on around Memorial Day. So that's a great reason to add some scarcity because that you can only get that discount or that offer for a certain amount of days. Again, this is where your offer comes into play, and your offer is really important because some people will go and offer, some people will be open to spending more money if the offer is good, rather than just spending the basic amount of money if the offer is bad. So think about the offer that you're creating as well. All right. So a few tips when you want to actually go and create an ad and how you should structure your ad copy. Now, if you're not a great copywriter or if you haven't created a lot of ads in the past, what you can do is you can use testimonials or you can use places that you've been featured. They're already writing the copy for you. It's a great use of validation that someone else has endorsed your product, and it's not too hard for you to execute on because you don't have to come up with any sales copy. You don't have to spend hours tweaking what you want to say and what you don't want to say. So that's a small little hack to easily write some copy that's going to make a big impact on the readers, because it's someone else saying like, hey, your product is awesome. And people are 8 to 10 times more likely to believe someone else's recommendation over a brand's own recommendation. So this isn't as strong as someone obviously saying like, hey guys, this is great. You should try this product, but it is a great way because you can see Allure here, for example, has talked about their brand very positively. And then we've got a bunch of user testimonials here. So this is a great way that you can actually create ads without having to be a really good ad copywriter yourself or create stunning videos, because all of these are just filmed, on their phone or their self-portrait mode. So that's an easy way to create a good ad. And so a few little takeaway tips for ad copy, using customer reviews, testimonials, or places you've been featured. Take comments from your posts. So if people have really nice comments on some of your organic posts or your other ads, look at those comments and see what people like about your product. That will help you write copy. Using user-generated content is great. So if people are organically posting about your brand, see what they're saying and if there's anything that you can use from their posts in your ad copy. When it comes to reading, make sure that the headline or the first sentence is going to hook them and get them interested, because if they don't get hooked straight away, then they're obviously going to keep scrolling, because it's very easy to do on social. A lot of the time we find that keeping it simple works best. Don't try and overcomplicate anything. Don't try and get too clever with explaining why your product is better. Just focus on the customer, focus on the problem at hand and the solution. Don't try and get too nitty-gritty into all of the specific features of your product. Think about more of the benefits that are going to be handed over to that person or customer once they make that purchase. So it's like, okay, if you make this purchase, what's the benefit to me? Rather than like, hey, my product has all these features. So think about a feature and a benefit separately. A really good exercise is to write down all of your features on one side of a chart and then match a benefit to every single one of your features. And that way you'll easily be able to tell what the difference between a benefit and a feature is, and you'll know what you should be saying instead of the feature.
Yeah, and also to touch on this, and if you guys were here from last time, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but one thing that we really focus on is customer testimonials. Like Jack said, it's really important, but essentially you're letting the customer write the ad for you. The way they use it, the way they've benefited from it, it's helped them because of, that's your gold. That's easy. That's easy content for you guys when they start reviewing it, and you can just use that as your ad copy because that's their hook. So trust them to how they explain it and how they use it and their benefits. So use that in your ad copy. It definitely helps.
Yeah, great tips there. Next is ad creative. So I would say the creative is more important than the copy, just because it takes up more real estate in the feed. It's much more engaging when people are scrolling, and you can also get away with putting a lot more information in video and image than you can in text, because Facebook and Instagram do cut off a lot of the text. So really focus on your creative, then your copy. We get the best results from running video. So video is great because you have a lot of information that you can send to your user very quickly within the first kind of like 15 seconds. And it doesn't take much on their end to consume that content, whereas reading is a bit bigger ask. So with video, thinking about your ratios. So, if you're on mobile and if you're using stories, thinking about portrait size creative is really good. So if you're in apparel or fashion, portrait and stories works really well. If you are in an older demographic, usually 35 plus, you want to stick with kind of like mobile and desktop news feeds because they don't. The older demographics don't use stories as much. If you're in a younger demographic, you can use stories more. So again, thinking about who your customer is and how you can position your ads to best capture that person's attention and get them to take action, whether that's a click or a purchase. In terms of length, usually we create multiple versions. So 15 second, 30 second, 60 second. 15 second, usually shorter is recommended. But what we do see a lot of people doing is, they put their logo and they put a bunch of boring stuff at the start of their video. Go straight to the hook as soon as your video starts, because you want to be able to capture that person's attention in the first 3 seconds. Otherwise, they're going to just keep scrolling. So don't waste your time putting a logo at the start and letting that run for 3 seconds, because that's not about them. Remember, you want to make all of your ads about the consumer, about the customer. What is the benefit to them? Why should they watch your video? Why should they click your ad? Think about all of it to them, because we see so many advertisers just focusing about themselves. They're talking about their own brand. They're talking about, why their product's awesome. They're talking about, everything is to do with the brand. It's not to do with the customer. You've got to think about, how can I make this valuable to my customer to watch? A few other tips with video, adding call to action to the end. Also, I highly suggest when you create ad sets, creating video and image ads within an ad set so that you can make the most of all the placements that Facebook and Instagram have to offer. Using the auto placements is a great way to start because you can just kind of look at everything first and then you can look at breakdowns afterwards. It's a little bit more advanced, but I would highly suggest starting with the automatic placement. Square is just the most common aspect ratio, just because it works on so many of the platforms. So it looks good on Facebook and Instagram. In terms of stories, usually when that portrait mode size is there, you want to separate out your stories from everything else. So I would start with the news feed and the square stuff, and then as you get a little bit more advanced, start doing the stories and the portrait size stuff. We also have a bunch of examples. At the end, you can let me know to shoot me an email if you want these slides, or we'll probably email them out as well. But all the links will be in here so that you can actually go and click through. We have like an ad library that you can take a look at and see everything that's going on there. So this section, we're going to actually jump into the ads manager. So let me just zoom in a little bit, because last time we had some issues here. Okay, so a few things here. Actually, first off, I'm going to show you this section here, because I want to show you the ads manager before I start building the ad, so that you kind of understand what we're looking at. So the ads manager is here. And what I want to do is I want to show you the difference between using the ads manager and using Shopify. So Shopify, once you log into your store, you're going to have your dashboard, and you're going to look at under marketing. You're going to go to overview, and you're going to want to set up your campaign. Now you need to make sure that you have your Facebook as a sales channel set up first. If it's not set up, they're going to ask you to do it anyway. But all you really need to do, if you're just getting started and you don't want to deal with the ads manager because this looks extremely scary to you, what you can do is you can make this in Shopify, and you can easily create an ad super quickly. You can see here there's paid options or there's free options. The paid options are essentially just ads. And so what you want to do is, I would highly suggest, if you're just starting out, using the Facebook dynamic retargeting ad. And what you can do here is you can add a name. It will pull in your product images, and you can add a description here. Now, one reason to just take a look at this before you launch it is you can see here that this store is not designed very well for this automatic ads to be pulled in. So for example, carousel ads, which is the default platform that, that Shopify does for these ad types, requires a square image. So before you go and launch something, please do not make this mistake of putting up a carousel ad that has the wrong image format sizing. But you can easily create ads in here. So if you're just getting started and you're looking to make a store, think about possibly using square images for your products, because that will crop more nicely into your ads if you're using this automatic system. If you want more customizability and you want more control over your ads, then we'll show you how to do that in the ads manager in a second. But this is super easy. You set your dates, your budgets, and you're adding some ad text here. So if you want to get something up and running super quick within like 5 minutes, you can do it straight from your Shopify store. If you are looking to do something a little bit more advanced, this is where the ads manager comes in. Now, there's a few really important things that you need to note with ads manager. First off, it can be very confusing if you're just getting started. So I'm going to quickly walk you through all the different areas that you should be looking at. So up in the top left, you'll see your ads manager, and you'll actually see multiple there if you're part of multiple ads managers. The overview tab is really good for just looking at your trend. So are you trending up? Are you trending down? So first off, the ones that we look at, we want to look at ROAS. So you can search for trends here. And so we can look at ROAS over time. We can look at spend over time.
If anyone doesn't know what ROAS stands for, it's return on ad spend. So just to put that one in there. Sorry.
Yep, no, definitely call me up on any acronyms that I'm using. So this is a really good tab if you just want a screenshot of like how you're doing over time and how you're trending. The next tab is going to be campaigns. Now, campaigns is kind of like the top level. That's where you control your spends. That's where you set kind of like, you know, your campaign type. I'm going to go over campaign types in 1 second. And then you're going to have your ad set level and your ad level. So each level has different priorities. So the top level, which is campaigns, its priority is to make sure that you're using the correct campaign type and you've got the right budget. The ad set level is to make sure that you have control over the targeting. And then the ad level is to do with what type of content is in your ad. So remember back to our triangle. So this closely relates to our triangle. So the ad set is the targeting, and the ad level is the copy, creative, and offer. So those two things you can adjust and control at each of these levels. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to look at is the date range. Some really cool stuff that you can do with date ranges and looking at comparisons. So you can look at, how you did this week compared to last week, or how you did this 30 days and the last 30 days. When you're looking at your ads, I highly suggest not to look like daily. Looking at your results daily, one, will give you a panic attack, and two, it's not a great idea to jump to really short conclusions. So what we really like to do when we're analyzing accounts, we look at the lifetime, the 30-day, the 14, and the 7. You don't necessarily want to be looking, like every hour at your ads, because then you're going to make a lot of edits. And the more edits you make, the more you're going to mess up your campaign. There's a much more technical way of saying that, but I'm not going to get into it right now. And it's about to do with like the learning phase and all that sort of stuff. But we'll jump over that, and you can follow up with more in-depth questions if that's where you're at, or you can look at one of the more advanced sessions that we're going to do, and we can go into the learning stages and all that sort of stuff. Now, once you've looked at the dates, you kind of like know all your tabs, you know your dates. The next is your columns. Now, it's really important to set up the correct columns, because if you do not set up the correct columns, you don't know what you're looking at and you're not measuring the right things. So I'm going to talk quickly about which columns you should be setting up. So when you want to go set up your columns, there's a few things you need to note in here. So one, there are a lot of columns, huge amounts. Two, you can actually preset and save your columns. So I'm going to give you the sheet of which columns we look at, and so that you can just replicate that. But I highly suggest that you set up these columns. I'm going to go back to here, because we're kind of finished with that section until you get to building the ad. These are the columns you're going to want to add. So if you're an e-commerce store, you want to be looking at things like how much you've spent. You want to look at how many purchases you've got, what your ROAS, return on ad spend, is, what your CPAs are, so cost per acquisition, and cost per acquisition will be on a purchase and a cart. You're going to want to look at your link clicks. Now, the reason I say link clicks is because Facebook will also show you clicks. Now, a click includes someone liking, someone opening comments. Any click on your ad, Facebook is going to count that. What you really want to focus on is what is the click-through rate and how many clicks you're getting on link clicks, because that means they're actually going from Facebook or Instagram to your website. A few other things you can look at is landing page views. I really like to look at landing page views because you can tell how many people are dropping off between clicking on your ad and your page loading. So if you have a really big difference between your cost per link click and your landing page cost per view, if there's a really big difference, so say the cost per click is $1 and your cost per landing page view is like $2, half of the people that are clicking on your ad are leaving before your page loads. So that's an issue. So keep an eye out for stuff like that. The other things, these are not as important, but I definitely like looking at them as secondary indicators of performance. So looking at things like cost per 1,000 impressions, that is essentially meaning the cost of traffic. How competitive is your traffic? How expensive is it? So some brands, they'll have CPMs of, $5 to $6. Other brands will have CPMs of like, $15 to $20. Now this will highly depend on your niche and how competitive that traffic is. We also look at a few engagement factors like post shares and saves and all that sort of stuff. So either screenshot that or get the slides off me so you can set up your columns. I usually save them out as well so I can easily load those columns every single time. Now, this is an ad account that I want to show you because there's a few columns that you're going to really want to focus on. Now, this has enough data so that we can kind of get a little bit more of an understanding of averages. But what you want to do is you want to take a look at your averages. So this is on the entire account level. So if you're going to be improving your account week after week, you want to look at your average, and then you want to be like, okay, which are overperforming and which are underperforming. So a good way to look at your ad account is to be like, okay, what is my average? And then looking at all your campaigns and being like, okay, these ones are all above average, these ones are below average. Okay, I need to focus on improving these ones below my average, because you want to continually be improving your averages. Now, you can look at your averages for your cost per click, your click-through rate, your cost per add to cart, your cost per purchase, and your ROAS. So those are the ones that you've got averages for, that you want to continually be improving those averages. Now, there's a lot of other factors that go into this, but this little line down here is going to show on every single tab. So for example, if you've launched your ads and you don't know which one is performing well or it's not performing well, look at your account averages, look at your ad set averages, look at your ad averages, and you can get an idea as to you can get an idea as to if an ad is doing well, or if you should stop spending money on that ad, or if it's it's not good compared to your account average. Because if it's too far above your account average, that means it's probably not a good ad, or the targeting is not good. So there's no point continue spending money on that. So, okay, next section, we're going to actually go and build a live ad. Now, MicroPuzzles, awesome brand that let us do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up the ad in the ads manager. We're going to run this. So you're going to see how we would do it. And then we're probably going to run this for a little bit and then get some results and publish those results, whether it's in another session or we just post it in the group. Either one, we're definitely going to publish the results of this. So walking you through the understanding of how we created this ad. Now, I highly suggest you always use conversion campaigns, because it's not documented, but it's definitely being hinted by multiple account reps that Facebook buckets and categorizes people, which makes sense because you have 3 types of campaigns. You have conversion campaigns, traffic campaigns, and engagement campaigns. Now, Facebook has a lot of data. So what they do is they bucket people into those 3 segments. So Facebook will look at all the people who usually complete conversions, put those in the conversion campaigns. They'll look at all the people who usually click on things but don't convert, and then they'll look at all the people who engage with things but don't convert or click. So you want the guys who are actually getting conversions, because they're the ones that click away, they go and hit conversions. Conversions can be adding to cart, viewing content, making purchases, all that sort of stuff. So I highly encourage you to use conversion campaigns. Next up, you want to look at your ad type. So we're going to use a video in this. And the reason I chose a video for MicroPuzzles is because they had a great PR spot on a local news channel. And this is really good because it's not too salesy. It's third-party validation. So someone else is saying how good MicroPuzzles is. So it's not too self-promotional, and it creates a lot of credibility. A few other ways that we've improved our credibility is we've talked about other places we've been featured. We've talked about how many 5-star reviews we have. And you can see here that the content is actually in favor of someone else endorsing our brand. So think about how you can increase your credibility. If you're just getting started, this does take a little bit more time. And I'm pretty sure Hans has some other great training about how to get PR features and all that sort of stuff. But if you don't have PR features, you can do videos around how your product works, or user testimonials, or user demos, that sort of stuff. So giving away some free product for people to make video content for you. So this is great because it's not too self-promotional. It's someone who's actually got the product, showing how they would use it and how it's impacted their life. It's not kind of like a super professionally shot video. You definitely don't need professionally shot videos. User-generated content usually converts the best. Okay, so a few other things here. You can see we're using emojis. So as you read through the text, the bits with the emojis definitely stand out. Calling out what sort of benefits your brand might have over competitors. So for example, MicroPuzzles is made in the US, local in Los Angeles. That's a huge selling point when people are considering where their products are coming from. The other thing is the flexibility in designs, 25 plus designs, or customize your own. Now that's huge. Like personalization and customization is massive. It's a great benefit that you should pull out from your product offering. And a few of the other things are, we're going to take all of this and we're going to put this into Facebook. Are there any questions about any of that, Jen, before we jump in there?
Yes, so we had one question for any thoughts on which event you should be using with a conversion campaign. This is from Marco.
Yep. So I suggest starting with purchase. Facebook is going to recommend that you have 50 conversions a week. Now, that recommendation is for Facebook to fully optimize their algorithms to get you purchases. Now, obviously, if you're starting out, that's not really possible. So I would try purchase conversions first, because we've had stores that have been brand new and purchase conversions have worked straight away. Other brands, purchase conversions have not worked, and so we've had to optimize to initiate checkout, add to carts, or view contents. So again, you want to look at your averages. So looking at your averages, you can also do split tests, but that's a little bit more advanced. But looking at your averages, you can kind of see if something's going well or not. So if you're trying purchases and your average cost per click is really good, your click-through rate is really good, your ROAS is really good, keep using purchases. If it's not good and you're not getting anywhere, try initiate checkouts or something.
And one more thing, I think a lot of people, so we're doing an industry poll right now, so a lot of are in fashion and a lot are in home goods and furniture. I think there's a big difference between averages on fashion and averages on furniture and understanding that funnel. Can you just go a little through how that would look, either how to pull traffic or how to look at your averages or purchase conversions and stuff?
Yes, so the general rule of thumb is that the more expensive a product is, the more touch points you're going to have. So if you're selling a $5,000 product, chances are someone's not going to buy that the first time they see your ad, because that's a big decision someone's making. Whereas if you're selling something for $5, your ad can be way more direct and people are probably going to purchase much faster because it's only $5. So think about your price point and is your ads aligned to that? And then look at your metrics. So for example, if you were selling a $5 product and you're getting a $1 cost per click, you're going to have to convert 1 in 5 people. So that's not really going to make sense. I really suggest that people have products that are at least $60 plus on running Facebook and Instagram, because you drastically increase your chances of having a positive ROI. So return on ad spend. If you're under that $60 threshold, what you're going to have to think about is how you can get your cost per click down and your cost per purchase down, because you're going to have a much higher conversion rate. Now, as I say that, more expensive stores usually have much lower conversion rates. So an average conversion rate for something selling a product in the 500 to 5,000 range is probably going to have a conversion rate around 1%. Now, someone selling a product under $100, their conversion rate usually see in like 4 to 5%. So if you're not in those ranges, definitely think about, okay, how can I improve my conversion rate before I even start running Facebook ads? Because if you're running Facebook ads to a website or a landing page that doesn't convert, you're just going to spend a bunch of money and it's all going to fall out of the bucket, or it's the holes in the bucket essentially leak all of your visitors out. So aim for kind of like a 2 to 3% conversion rate to start with if you're starting out. And then if you're finding that you're drastically above or below that, you can adjust accordingly. But yeah, that's a little bit about the amounts. Usually the cheaper the product, the cheaper the cost per click, apparel and all that sort of stuff. A lot of the apparel companies that we have rely on drops and keeping up on trends and fast moving designs and styles constantly switching out. So usually you have to be on topic and be building up scarcity. Like when you look at people like Supreme, they use scarcity really, really well. And that's what brings such a massive demand. So use those new line drops to help bring that scarcity up. If you are in furniture or stuff that isn't as exciting or it's not as impulse buy, maybe there's a few people that need to make a decision, usually you're going to see the cost of traffic a little bit more expensive. And also this comes back to that starting point that we made about understanding your customer and aligning the ad messaging with the warmth of that traffic. So if you have a product that's a super easy buy, you probably don't even have cold traffic. People are just buying because it's only $5. You can jump a lot of that. But if you have a really expensive product, it's going to take longer for people to get through those stages of cold to hot. All right, so let's go and build an ad. So first up, we're going to look at the campaign settings here. So as you can see, we're using conversions. Most of Facebook now uses campaign optimized budget. So a lot of you might have read online or in blogs and that sort of stuff about CBO. So CBO stands for campaign budget optimization. And Facebook used to do all of their ad targeting on the ad set level, but now it is all on the campaign level. So that's what everybody means when they say CBO. Now just leave this to highest value or lowest cost. That's the easiest way. You start getting a lot more advanced when you start playing around with the different types of bidding options. And I would highly suggest just using the campaign optimization budget on. Now, if you are just getting started and you're spending $5 to $10 a day, put all of your ad sets and campaigns and everything under one. If you are spending a little bit more, you might want to start separating out your prospecting and remarketing. But again, that's a little bit more advanced. So start off at the moment just by putting everything under one campaign. Now, the reason I say this is because when you are trying to optimize your campaigns with the Facebook algorithm, they need more and more data, and they optimize based off the campaign level. So if you spread your $50 across 5 campaigns, you're not going to be collecting as much data as you would if you had one campaign that was spending $50 a day. So I would say if you're starting out, put everything under one campaign, and then as you get more advanced, start splitting out into multiple campaigns, because you want to get all of your data working for one campaign so that Facebook has the best chance of finding customers for you. If you segment it out, remember each campaign requires 50 conversions a week. All right, so on the ad set level, now this is where we tackle the targeting and traffic point on our triangle. Now, this is where you're going to set the event. So we're going to start off with purchase, but for example, you can see all the different events that you have available. Now, if you create, if you add your Facebook pixel to your Shopify store, super easy. You just grab your pixel and put it into the settings, store settings of Shopify. It will place all of these events for you, so you won't have to do anything. Now, we talked about those secondary metrics. So secondary metrics are things like initiate checkout, add to cart. You can try add payment info, view content. I probably wouldn't ever use search, but I would start with purchase, see if that's working. If that's not working, try initiate checkout, and try cart, and try view content. That's the hierarchy we usually use, but always try and start with purchase, because if purchase works straight away, that's great. As you scroll down, you're going to have a few options for audience targeting. Now, what you want to take a look at is a few things here. You have custom audiences and you have detailed targeting. So custom audiences essentially means it's an audience that you've created. So when we go and build custom audiences, we usually choose what this audience is, whether it's a remarketing audience, a lookalike audience, whether it's based off what conversion events and all that sort of stuff. I can go in and show you a little bit about how to build one of these if you want. Just let me know in the comments and we can show you how to build audiences. But once you create all those audiences, they'll populate the sizing here. And you can also make different audiences. So ideally what we do with a lot of our clients is we separate out prospecting and remarketing. So from all of the remarketing campaigns, you only have remarketing. For all the prospecting campaigns, you exclude all the remarketing. So in this one, for example, we might want to do prospecting only. So we would want to exclude all purchasers and all website visitors.
Sorry, Jack. One question while you're in the audiences stuff. How much, like how big do you want an audience to be? Can you recommend audience sizes with these prospecting and remarketing ones?
Yeah, so remarketing is obviously going to be as big as your remarketing audience. So if you're doing remarketing 0 to 30 days, it's going to be however big, however much traffic you have. The minimum is 100 for Facebook to make an audience. So usually you're going to have, upwards of 100. If you have like thousands of people visiting your store a day, you'd want to break down your audiences into smaller segments. But a lot of you, if you're starting out, I would start in 30-day increments. That's fine. Or even just putting everything into one. If you're just getting started, like 180 days, that's the maximum you can do. In terms of interest targeting, you really want to be around the kind of like 1 to 2 million range, because you don't want to be super targeted that you suffocate the targeting, because that's when the CPM gets really expensive. And then you don't want to be too lenient that the people in your audience are not targeted enough. So for example, in this, we're going to target Los Angeles. We might target Los Angeles because what we did was we did an ad that's based around KTLA. So that's a LA news station. We might look at, let's start off with 18 to 65 because this audience is probably going to be a little bit small. And then we're going to do puzzling. So you can also use the suggestions. I love using the suggestions because it comes up with a lot of stuff that I would never have thought of. And you can also see the sizing of these audiences just on the right there. So you can see jigsaw puzzle is pretty big. You can see puzzle hearts, puzzle adventures, a magic puzzle. So you can see the different audience sizes. And now don't be afraid to mix and match. So really think about, let's try to see what this is going to come back with. Puzzle, 12 million. It's probably a bit too big. But what you can do is, if something is really big, actually, let's use that as an example. If something is really big, what you can do is you can actually narrow that down. So you can click this narrow audience here. You can unclick this. You can click the narrow audience and you can narrow this down even further. So you could do puzzle and then jigsaw puzzles. So you could narrow that down a lot, and you see that's even probably too small. And the reason that jumped is because I removed the reach beyond my detailed targeting. So Facebook is automatically going to try and expand your audience based off the data that it's collecting, and it's going to put its algorithms to work. So if you want to get the exact audience, you need to untick the reach beyond your details, and you need to not add any custom audiences, because as soon as you add custom audiences, it starts to hide the audience size. That's a security issue that was brought up last year that made it super annoying for advertisers, but it's much better for safety wise. So in this scenario, we might actually think about, okay, let's maybe not do Los Angeles and let's actually target all of the United States because we want it to be a little bit bigger. Oh no, not United Kingdom. We want United States. Okay, now when we look at our audience, we have 3.5 million. Okay, so that's a little bit big. So what we can do is we can actually maybe drop this to, let's say, 25 and up, and let's maybe drop this to 55. So don't just guess these. What you can also do is you can also take information from your customers. You can look at audience insights, which is a tool that Facebook offers, and you can collect a lot of this information as you collect more data. The aim of the game with paid advertising is collecting data, because the more data you have, the better you can do targeting, the better copy you can write, the better creative you can make, the better copy you can use on your landing page, the better offers you can come up with. So that's why I really wanted to go over the understanding the customer first, because that is your starting point. If you don't understand your customer, don't try and go and create ads or anything just yet. Try and really understand the customer first, because that's going to make all of this ad stuff that you do much, much easier. Okay.
And one more thing, Jack, sorry. We're getting a couple questions on lookalikes, what the ideal audience potential reach number is, and how to create how to create an audience from page followers.
Yep.
So that's 3 different questions, but just putting that out there so I don't interrupt anymore.
Yeah, sure. Let's jump into the audiences creation straight after this. I'm just going to finish this bottom section, and then we'll go into audiences. I'll show you how to create lookalike audiences, how to create page likes, and all that sort of stuff. Now, a few things here is you can actually break down where you have something displaying. So if you are using a square image, stories does not always look great. So I would highly suggest removing stories. Square works quite well in most of these placements. If you are using stories, you want to untick everything else and leave stories showing. Now, the other thing is the conversion window. Now, this is a question we get a lot as to what we should choose for our conversion window. Now, essentially, this feature decides how strict you want to be with your optimization on Facebook to end. So are you expecting someone to convert within 1 day? I would always use the, usually I use the view and the click. So we'll either use 1 day click or view, or 7 day click and 1 day view. So for cheaper products, use the faster attribution windows, because you want to say to Facebook, hey, if they haven't converted after 1 day, I don't want to keep trying. They're not going to buy it. If you have something that's more expensive, you're like, no, this actually takes a few touch points. You want to actually be selecting the larger attribution windows or conversion windows. So I would suggest if you're selling something like over $100, put in the 7 day click, 1 day view. If you're selling something under $100, choose the 1 day click or view. That's a big question we usually get. Now let's jump into the settings to create a campaign before we go to the ad level. So Facebook's just changed this up a little bit, so you might not recognize it as well, but up in the top left, you have a little hamburger menu and you have all the different assets you have available. Now we're gonna go to audiences, but the other thing that you have down here, you have a lot of options here. And when I was talking about the finding the right ages and the right interests, you wanna use the audience insights. The audience insights are going to work for competitors or your own page if they are big enough. So let's do everybody on Facebook and United States, and let's do the interest of like Nike. Okay, so if you have really large competitors, or if you want to understand the ages and the page likes and all that sort of stuff, there is no data on Nike. That does not make any sense. Page views, connections. Oh, it's because we're looking at employees. So we do not want the employees one. Let's look at Nike Inc. Okay, so Nike Inc. is the interest. All right, so here is where you can get kind of a little bit of an understanding as to whether you should be targeting male or female. It will also show you the ages. Technically, there's a lot larger audience in general for younger people, just because there's more younger people on Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, definitely consider older demographics as well. But you can kind of get an understanding of, percentage of audience that is male or female, so which one you should target, and then also the ages that you should target. There's a bunch of job titles and all that sort of stuff. That's really specific to industries, if your product is related to work or not. The other section that you should definitely check out, I'm just covering this while we're on targeting before we go to the audiences. The other section you should definitely check out is look at your competitors' interests and what sort of affinities there are. So affinity essentially just means like, okay, everybody in this audience, there's a lot of overlap with these interests. So you don't want to look at something that's too high because it's usually too generic, but you do want to look at stuff that like, these brands might be brands that you might want to target. I need to hide this. And you can keep going down the list. And there's a lot of interest targets you can try here. And so if you use these audience insights plus the suggestions feature that I showed you, you can usually come up with some pretty good targeting options in there. Again, though, you need to understand that customer, and you really need to understand what they like, what they dislike, where they hang out, the brands they buy, the products they buy, all of those sorts of things. Okay, so jumping over to the ads manager here. So let's look at micro puzzles. So here you're going to have all your audiences listed out here and the sizes. Now, what you want to do is you want to either create a custom audience, which is based off a pixel event or a social engagement, or you want to create a lookalike audience. So a lookalike audience is an extrapolation of a seed audience. So that sounds complicated, but it's really not. What that means is you're saying, Facebook, from these purchases, I want you to go out and find 1% of America that looks most alike this group of people. So that group of people is your seed audience, and the lookalike is the similar people to that seed audience. And if you've looked into lookalikes a little bit, you have percentages. So you have 1% lookalike, 2%, 3%, all the way up to 10%. That's the maximum you can do. So let's start off with custom audiences first, because you're going to need to create that custom audience first to then create the lookalike audience based off that custom audience. Now you have a bunch of options here. Now you have website visitors, you have an upload option, so that's what a customer list is. You also, I know there was a question about Facebook page. You also can create audiences based off social engagements, whether it's events, Instagram, Facebook, videos, all that sort of stuff. Now, to create an audience based off your page visitors, what you want to look at is, what are we doing? We're doing micro puzzles. You want to find your micro puzzles and you want to choose what engagement you're going to make this audience on. Now, if you're just getting started, I highly suggest that you just create it off all engagements with the page. If you have a lot of engagements on your page, you might want to look at some of these smaller conversion types because, for example, people who save a page or post, we find they are really, really engaged, high intent people. So if you have enough people, you might want to create audiences from that. I would avoid message pages because that's usually people who are looking for customer support or something like that. Visits your page is a good one, and engages with any of your page, post, or ad. Those are good ones as well. But if you're getting started, start with everything. Start with 30 days, so anybody who's engaged in the last 30 days. You can also create lifetime. So lifetime is 365 days for social engagements and 180 days for website engagements. So that's how you create, and then you just put in your name and you press create. So that's how you create a one based off your Facebook page. Now, there's a lot of different stuff that you can do based off your website. So once you place your Facebook pixel on your website, you have a huge amount of things that you can do because all the people visiting that website, you're collecting information on them and you're saying, okay, I know who that, Facebook is saying, okay, I know who that person is now. We can create audiences targeting those people. Now, you can keep it really basic and go all website visitors for 30 days, or you can start getting a lot more targeted in the types of actions that people are taking on your website. So for example, if you want to make an audience just of people who purchased, you can choose that purchase event. So you could say, okay, everybody who purchased in the last 30 days. And my naming convention, I usually put an initial for the account that it is, and then what we want to call what the actual audience is, and then in brackets I put the days. So here you can see this is micro puzzles purchased within the last 30 days. And so that's usually the naming convention that we use, and I'll show you how to create that lookalike. So now once you create that audience, it'll ask if you want to create that lookalike. Now if you say yes, this is the screen that you're going to get. So the lookalike source, we're going to use the one that we just created. No, we don't want to do that. So now for the sizing of this, I usually suggest around 300 to 500 people in your seed audience. Now, if you are just getting started, you might not have 500 people who have purchased in the last 30 days. So you might want to expand that to 130 days. Now, you can create these audiences with as minimum as 100 conversions. But I highly suggest that you try it, definitely test it, but we've seen the best results from usually when you start getting to like that 500 size.
So sorry, Jack. Are all these audiences for one ad or multiple ads with the same ad? So
yep, great question. So you can use these audiences in any ad set. So this can be for any ad campaign that you run in the future. You just need to create the audience once, and you can reuse that audience in any of your campaigns. Now, remembering the tabs, the campaign level, the ad set level, the ad level, all of your audience and targeting is going to happen on the ad set level. So when we go to create our ad and we're editing the ad set level, under custom audiences is where all of these audiences are going to be saved. And you can use multiple audiences across multiple ad sets and campaigns, and you don't have to go and create this every time. I highly suggest that you just put aside an hour or something and just go and create all your audiences at once and just get it all out of the way. So coming back to the lookalike, so you want to choose your seed audience. So that's the purchase event. And then what you want to do is you want to choose the country. So we're advertising to the United States. And then we want to choose what percentage of the United States we want to find. Now, what I usually do is I choose this 6 and I create all of them at once. So it's going to create all of these new lookalike audiences. This is going to save you a lot of time, and it's going to make it much easier to create a lot of audiences at once. So that's how you create lookalikes, and you can create a lookalike on any custom audience. So I would suggest that once you have like above 1,000, that's when you want to start creating the audiences. Ideally 500, but you're going to have to know that yourself because they don't publish this unless it's over 1,000. Like if you know from Shopify that you have 300 customers and you go and create your purchase conversion event, then try out the purchases anyway. If you've got no purchases, definitely don't use lookalikes yet. Remember, the data is really important because that's what's going to help Facebook match those potential customers for you. If you don't give Facebook good data or enough data, they don't know who to target. So you end up just having very untargeted ads. And remember, from that triangle, we have the copy, offer, and creative, and then targeting and traffic is that second point. So we want to make sure that we have good targeting. So if you're just getting started, start with interest targeting, research your customer, research your competitors. Once you start collecting a little bit of data, start using lookalikes and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so let's get out of this and let's get back to our ad. So in this one, we're going to target puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, 2 million people. We're not going to include the stories, and we're going to keep it pretty lenient with the 7-day. Actually, this is a cheaper product, so we'll do the 1-day click, 1-day view. And then we'll go to the next stage. And so here is where we actually create the ad. So this is the copy and creative section. So you can kind of see how you're breaking up this campaign ad account, also the Facebook ad account, into these sections. And each section has a different, I suppose, reason for editing. That was terribly explained, I'm sorry.
Do you want to repeat that again, just so people can understand that in English?
So each tab has a specific purpose. And so at each level, you want to make sure that you're looking at all of the settings that you're controlling. Now, remember when we created that ad in Shopify, if you want something super basic, you can use Shopify and get something up really quickly. If you want all of these options and all this control, you can come and use something in the Ads Manager. Now, I do get a lot of questions about how to set up Ads Manager and everything, and the structure of Facebook Business Managers and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to quickly go over that so that you guys, if you haven't created your Ads Manager yet, you'll understand how to set it up. But essentially, a business manager is the umbrella. So you, as a business owner, want to own the business manager. So if you look up business.facebook.com, it'll ask you to set up a business manager. Now, under your business manager, you're going to have all of your assets. Now, an asset is a Facebook page, Instagram account, ad account, Facebook pixel, all this sort of stuff. And so under that business manager that you own, you're going to want to own all of these assets. And then you can control those assets and give access to different people and all that sort of stuff. So just keep that in mind when you're creating your ads manager. Think about the business manager as the umbrella, and think about all the ad accounts and pages as the assets under the umbrella. I just wanted to cover that quickly because I do know we get a lot of questions from people getting started about that. Okay, on the ad level is where we want to adjust all of our copy and creative, and this is one of those points on our triangle. So here we're just going with a simple image and video. You can get a lot more granular here about the types of ad displays that you want. So you can look at all of the different ad types here and see what they look like. But yeah, essentially, let's just keep it really basic to start with, and then you can start exploring the different ad types like carousels and collections later on. And then you can also explore dynamic later on as well. So dynamic essentially means that you're adding in multiple images, multiple copy options, and Facebook is finding the best combination for you. But let's start off just by doing something basic. And so what we want to do here is we are choosing single and image. And then from here, I just uploaded this prior because it takes a long time to upload. And then as you scroll down, you're going to get to the primary text section, the headline and description. So the primary text is the stuff above the creative. So this is where we had, personalized and custom puzzles. And then we had more copy about credibility and that sort of stuff. Now, as I mentioned before, Facebook and Instagram cut off a lot of the copy. So you really need to make sure you grab someone's attention in that first sentence or two.
Hey, sorry, Jack, can you just slow down a little? People are having you're just speaking a little fast.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I know we've only got about 20 minutes left, and I definitely want to get in the reviews. Okay, so this is the primary text, and you want to put that in. How we came up with this primary text we went over earlier, and then you want to put in your heading, which is this section in here, and then you want to put in your description. Now, your description will only show if your heading is short enough. So let's do this, actually. Okay. All right, so for example, if we just had fun puzzles, which is a short enough headline, it'll show the description. If your title goes over 2 lines, it's not going to show your description on mobile feed. Now, it's a good idea just to quickly take a look at all the different ad types and look to see what your ad would look like in all these different placements. So if you want to take a look, or if you're interested in seeing what it's going to look like on Instagram or Facebook or the audience network, you can take a look in here. So there's a bunch of options there. Now, the next step, you're going to want to put your website URL. Now, I highly suggest that you link directly to the product page, because the more steps or more clicks it takes, the higher the chance of someone leaving. So if you are advertising a specific product, you should try and link to that product page. If you have a lot of products, try and link to like category pages or pages that have like a few options. And if you're really just getting started and people have no idea what you do, what your product is or anything like that, link to your homepage, because your homepage will give them a little bit of information about the product, about the brand, that sort of thing. So it can compensate if you don't quite get the message across in your ad as to what your product is, what your brand is, and all that sort of stuff. So the safe bet is the homepage. As you get more advanced, you might want to start testing category and product pages. Now, the call to action, which is this button here, you can choose from a few options here. Now, thinking about the traffic type, so whether it's hot or cold, you might want to choose something like this. So for example, on this one, we're going pretty much for the direct sale. So we're probably going to use the shop now or the learn more. Learn more is not as aggressive, and it just sounds like people are learning more about the product or the company. Shop now, you're obviously asking them to shop. Now,
also learn more is also really good when you have a higher priced product, because people trying to buy, furniture for $2,000, it's a lot harder to be like, shop now, buy a couch. But learn more about the company. It's a lot more helpful. So understanding where they are and what you're selling at that moment is really important for differentiating between shop now and learn more.
Mm-hmm. Go with learn more if you're not sure. It's always a safe bet. And then down the bottom, you're going to have tracking parameters. We're not going to go into that right now because that is much more advanced. So now what you need to look at is this toggle here. So you can see that these are blue when they are active. Now, if there is one of these toggled off on the ad set level or the ad set or the ad level, it means it's not going to run. So at the moment, we have the ad set off. Now, this is really useful because you can control which ad sets and which ads are playing. So as you run your ads and as you collect your data and you start doing optimizations, you're going to want to turn specific ads or ad sets off that are not performing so that you can shift your budget over to the ads that are performing well. So that's why you want to control all of your on and off options on the ad set, and the campaign level. Now, when you're optimizing, you want to start at your ad level, then the ad set level, then the campaign level, because you might see on the top level after the first day or two, your campaign's maybe not looking so good, but on the ad level, you have maybe 2 or 3 ads that are doing really well, but you might have 2 or 3 that are doing really badly. So an easy way to get a lot of ads right now to test is we can duplicate this, let's say 2 times. And what we might want to do is we might want to test different creative, or we might want to test different copy. So this might just take a little while to duplicate, but you'll get the picture and understand why it's good to turn on and off ads that are performing well or not. So for example, we've copied that out. What we might want to do, we might want to change the image. So for example, you might want to choose an image instead of a video. So we might be like, okay, let's use this image. And then remember, I really suggest keeping your ads, ad names unique so that you can tell which one is which at first glance. You don't have to click into them all because it takes a long time. So that's an image. The other one's a video. So the other thing is, we might want to change this to image. And then we might keep this as a video, but we might, change the copy a little bit. So let's make this ad number 3, and let's change the copy and make it shorter. So let's do fun micro puzzles, so that we can show the description as well. Because shipping time right now is really important. So we might also deliver it within 3 to 6 days. So make sure that we get all of that in. Okay, so that's an easy way to test a few different options there. And then as we get more people coming in and clicking on our ads, we can see which ones have a good click-through rate, which ones have a good add to cart or CPA for add to carts, which ones have a good ROAS, and we can turn the bad ones off and leave the good ones running. So that's how we create an ad. Is there any questions around creating those ads before we jump into the final kind of round out about to-do lists and also some key takeaways and then the live reviews?
So we have a couple questions. If you're just getting started, how many ads should you try? How much should you spend, and how long should you run the ad for? So let's say, $200, $300 a month ad spend. This is also a very first-time strategy.
Okay, so starting out, I usually suggest 3 to 5 ads per ad set so that you give Facebook a few options, because Facebook is going to split test all of your ads in that ad set, and it's going to choose to spend ideally on what they think is the best one. So run 3 to 5 ads per ad set. If you've got $300 a month, break that down, maybe do $10 a day, and really keep an eye on the performance on a weekly basis. So let it run for kind of like $50 to $100, and then look at the data and turn off the stuff that's not working, leave the stuff that is working running. And so, yeah, I would start with that if you've got $300 a month to spend on that. Again, make sure that you understand the customer first. Make sure you have your pixel installed, because you need to have your pixel installed on your website so that you can see all of the purchases coming through. So if I didn't have my pixel installed on this site, I wouldn't be able to see these purchases, and I wouldn't be able to see the ROI or the ROAS. So definitely make sure you set up the Facebook pixel before you start running ads.
Awesome. And then do you expect prospecting campaigns to be profitable?
So this is a highly debated topic. So what I suggest is you try and keep your ad account in the 2 to 4 range of ROAS. So if you are under a 2 ROAS, you need to optimize and improve the performance. If you're over a 4 ROAS, you should be scaling and spending more money on prospecting, because you can get super high ROAS on really small audiences, but you might still be capped at maybe only making $100 a week. Whereas if you're spending money on new customers, new acquisition, you're bringing in new people to your store, your ROAS might drop, but you might be making $500, $1,000 a week instead of $500. So I really suggest that you try and stay in that range, 2 to 4 ROAS. Again, this is going to heavily vary on product and industry. So this is a very general rule of thumb. Like some companies have 20 plus ROAS, and then some companies operate on like a 1.5 ROAS because they know that that's their break even. So I would say definitely don't go below break even. Break even is usually 1.3 to 1.5 ROAS. And so make sure you're definitely above that, and then try and keep the ROAS at 2 to 4. If you're above 4, you can probably spend more money. If you're below 2, you should definitely optimize. So in this account, for example, we should definitely be spending more.
Yeah, and if I can jump into, I think Marco, you mentioned that you were, this question's from Marco, that you were in the retail industry. We've actually seen more flexibility in prospecting because they know where that audience is. So the apparel company is actually really heavy on Instagram and Instagram stories, and that's super, super profitable for them in prospecting. So it's just understanding where they are, where you can be, and like Jack said, it all depends on the industry and how much you're spending and all that, but it can be very profitable.
Yeah, and just to actually answer that second half of the question, because I talked about more of the ad account ROAS, not the campaign ROAS, prospecting definitely has a lower ROAS usually. So usually you want to keep your prospecting just above break even so that you're not losing money, but you're bringing in a lot of traffic and new customers. And then you want to really get a higher ROAS on all your remarketing, because you need to think of it as a funnel. So you need to fill the top of the funnel so that the bottom of the funnel gets bigger. And so if you are constantly trying to hit really high ROAS on prospecting, you might be limiting yourself to not being able to scale your brand. So one of the biggest reasons why we see brands not being able to scale to hundreds or thousands of dollars a day in ad spend profitably is because they focus on trying to get their prospecting to convert at the same rate that their remarketing is converting at. But that's just not going to happen, because that's cold traffic and hot traffic. They're completely different people, and they're at completely different stages of that buying cycle. So your prospecting is definitely going to be lower than your remarketing. Now, my advice is definitely trying to keep it above break even, because you don't want to lose money on prospecting. But you definitely still want to invest in prospecting, because that traffic moves its way down the funnel and becomes the remarketing. And if you're, for example, keeping your remarketing budget the same, you're not really going to grow. You want to constantly be increasing the size of your remarketing audiences, increasing the spend of your remarketing audiences, so that you're making hundreds or thousands of dollars a day as opposed to tens or hundreds a day. Does that make sense? Hopefully. If not, add a comment and I can go into it a little bit more. But yeah, let's jump into some live reviews. So we have 10 more minutes here. I'm going to scroll. Do I need to scroll to the bottom or the top, Jen?
It's at the comments are at the top.
Okay, so if you guys want to add in your store or your Facebook ad or page, and then I can give you some ideas as to how you should probably target or your customers, or what type of ads you should run. Be more than happy to give you some ideas, and we can go through some of those. It doesn't look like I can look at the ones at the start, otherwise I would have just taken those, but it looks like that it doesn't go that far back. All right, so we have our first one here. If I can copy it, it keeps moving. Okay, let's open up this one here. Okay, no home. All right, so furniture. I'm pretty sure this one is. Let's take a look. Bed, bath, living. Yep. Okay, so furniture is definitely a higher price product. This takes multiple touch points. So you're 100% going to want to break out your prospecting and remarketing, because chances are people are not going to buy the first time they visit your site. So break out your remarketing and prospecting by campaign, and really invest in the remarketing in terms of dynamic product ads. You want to have abandoned cart ads, and then you want to break down probably by category so that you can show relevant information or reviews based on your category that people are looking at. So, maybe even breaking it down into your top 3 if you don't have a lot of capabilities with your ads. Break it down into the top 3. And so set up your remarketing stuff first before you start your prospecting. And then when you start your prospecting, really focus on your styles, understanding who your customer is. So if you sway towards a younger demographic and people updating their homes or apartments that are younger, or if you lean towards older people, decorating their homes, and then think about what ads are going to resonate with them. What brands do you want to be associated with? So that's how I would go about doing this one.
Also, just to jump in, I'm not sure, I think it might be helpful to show them how you can find competitor ads on a Facebook page. It's usually really helpful for me to see what people are doing.
Yep.
Not there.
Let's go to Facebook on this one. So we're going to take a look at your ads if you've got any running. So Facebook recently updated it. So if yours looks a little bit different, it's because yours hasn't been updated yet, but I'm sure it's coming. But everywhere, every page will have the same section. So they're going to have this page transparency here. And what you can do is you can take a look at all of these and you can tell if they're running any ads. So this page is currently running ads. So what you can do is you can look at that page's ad library and you can take a look at all the ads they're running. So you can see this one here. So for example, these are some of the ads that are being run. So straight away here, I would definitely be breaking up your copy, take some notes from that copy slide. So using the emojis to break that up. It looks like you're running this on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram definitely doesn't format as well as Facebook does. So you might think about breaking those two up in your ad manager and separating out like paragraphs on Facebook and that sort of thing and keeping your copy shorter on Instagram, or definitely adding in a lot more emojis or that sort of thing to break up this text, because that's currently what it looks like on Facebook. It would also look a little bit different on Instagram just because there's not as much text. But yeah, this looks good. Know Her Home by Jaylene. I would possibly make the call to action. Shop Now is good, but I would make your titles much more grabbing. What's going to make someone click through? What's going to make someone interested? So this, for example, could be like, latest trends in mid-modern century, or it could be see the product that was featured on XYZ. The reason why everybody's upgrading their bedrooms, or how to start decorating your remote office better. Like you can put in information and tips in the ad copy and then do the call to action down here. So think about how you can benefit the user more than your brand, because you want to grab someone's attention and get them to click and then go and explore your products and start talking about yourself. So your ad, you need to really focus on the customer. All right, hopefully that was helpful. Let's move on to the next one. We've got.
Can you do oomph cooking?
What?
Oomph cooking. Oh, kitchenette, that's a good one too. And then the
I'm just working up the list.
Right.
Not display. Please contact server. Okay, let me go to the next one. Maybe that copy and paste was wrong. Malibu. Okay. This one here, for example, I would highly suggest thinking about the first impression. So when someone loads this page up, there's not a lot up here that I know what's going on. So if it is candles or that sort of thing, I would make it much more prominent with the picture. I would paint the picture of, where this is. Is it a home product? Is it an office product? Set the product in the place that your customers are actually using it. Make it more obvious. I think it's probably candles. Definitely make it more obvious, because you could be selling this as well. I'm not sure what that is. But really, your first impression is you're above the fold. So think about above the fold, and does someone understand what your product is and what problem you're solving straight away? So I would add a secondary line under here that actually explains what problem your product is solving. So you might be Malibu apothecary, I think that's pronounced. And then under that, you might say what your product is and what you do. So for example, it might be aromatherapy for XYZ, or it might be, improve the scent to do XYZ and release XYZ endorphins. So add a secondary line that's going to be a little bit more descriptive about what you do and the problem that you're solving. You do have this stuff up here, which is good, but your eyes go straight to this section here. All right, and as you scroll down, and the other thing is, the reason I say this, I'm not trying to be too harsh as to being like, this is bad. I'm not saying it's bad at all, but what you do need to remember is most people will not scroll down. So if you use some sort of heat map tracking software, there's a ton in the Shopify store, you'll see that you've lost 60% of people by the time you get to here. So most people aren't even seeing this stuff. So you really need to make a great first impression and capture that person's attention straight away. Okay, so as you scroll down, who we are, this is good. These are great. I would even put this stuff even maybe above the fold. So have these under here, if possible, if you can make that design work. Who we are, like a lot of the time, this is not the first thing you want to put on your website, just because it's not about you, it's about them. So you might want to make this like, you know, what we do or how we can help, that sort of stuff, and make it more about the customer rather than who you are. Another good thing is using testimonials, credibility, places you've been featured. Building that credibility and trust is very easy when someone else is talking about how good your brand is. All of this stuff is really good. These partners are great. Candles, these look really good. If possible, I would add a 6th one in here. Just a bit awkward with 5, but if you don't have 5, I would just keep it to 3. Definitely keep it even. This section's great.
Or you can make a little bundle option so you can fill it up.
Yep, this is a perfect example of using bundles. So you might want to think about, okay, what are my two or three best-selling products? Make a bundle and start selling that bundle for $120. Now, that's going to be a much better use of your traffic if you've got one person spending $120 instead of one person spending $50. So definitely try bundles to try and increase your average order value, because that backs out much better for your ROI, because you've got less people, but you're generating more money. So just see if people are interested in buying those bundles. The other thing is you can make the bundles limited time. You can make them, slightly discounted because they're buying in bulk. You can make it a little bit more on topic for any, current occasion. So if you've got like Mother's Day or Memorial Day or something like that, you can make bundles based around holidays. So there's different ways that you can use bundles. All right, let me go to the next one. I think we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more. Okay, ponybaghats.com. Okay, the hat revolution is here. Okay, so this is good because you see exactly what the product is and what it does straight away. Now, what I would possibly do is, if you can make this a little bit bigger, I would also add a subheading here explaining a little bit more. So the hat revolution is here. Now, why? What do you do? It looks like, obviously, it's a hat for ponytails, but spell that out for them. Is it the first of its kind? Is it patent pending? Have you been featured by someone as being innovative? Have you won any awards or anything for the innovation? So think about how you can add a little extra in there with a subtitle. But that looks really good. Okay, any ordinary ponytail. Okay, this is great. Okay, shop pony back. Fantastic. Here we are. Great. Yeah, so this is actually pretty good. The only thing I would be worried about here is the average order value. So definitely you want to probably be trying bundling and also testing different price points. If $49 is selling, great. If $49 is not selling, you might want to have like, a hat plus something and make a bundle, or you might want to sell like 2 hats, 1 light and dark or something like that, and make that the feature product. Because I would definitely want to keep an eye on what the average order value is and trying to continually push that up so that you can get above that $60 average order value, because that makes it a lot easier to run ads. The other thing is, this is great here. What else would I add to this page? Testimonials. You might want to say featured in and go over a few places you've been featured. On the ordinary ponytail hat, behind the story.
There's the shop pony back and then the stars right underneath. They're not aligned. So that's just me being a creative, where my brain is kind of going right there.
Oh, that thing, yeah.
Yeah, and if you and a little more.
We have options to edit that. Looks like that one has a review. The other thing I would do is I would definitely lean into influencers for this as well. Get them to create content for you. So give them free hats, get them to create content for you, and use that content in your ads. Not only in your ads, but you can also use it on your product pages. Like this sort of stuff here, you can definitely use in your ads. Looks like you're running a giveaway, which is a great idea. But yeah, you can probably get a lot of content from influencers. Also, you might want to give heavy discounts for people leaving reviews. At the moment, you don't have a huge amount of reviews on some of these, so maybe try and give some heavy discounts for reviews, because that credibility is going to be really important when people are deciding to buy, because it is an unknown, it looks like unknown brand. And in apparel, branding definitely matters. So yeah, definitely try and get some reviews up there, and you leverage influencers to create content for you. Okay, we'll do one more. Hopefully this is helpful. Let me know if this is helpful for you guys.
Yeah, does anyone have any other questions specifically? Happy to answer.
Okay, all right, this is good. Great product for right now. Home workouts. Okay, so first up, definitely have some sort of overlay for buy now, purchase, add to cart, something like that. This is a huge amount of real estate where there's no option to buy straight away. If someone knows they want bands, make it super easy and fast for them to go and get to the product page and check out. As we scroll down, even if you're using a GIF, so as you saw in that last video, that last website, using that GIF gives you so much more information than a still image. So if you can, creating short GIFs, so you might want to show a range of exercises in this top section. So people who are working on their legs might be interested in this, but maybe people who want arm workouts, this wouldn't appeal to them. So maybe having like a collage of different GIFs on how you can use the product. That way you get across what the product is and what it does straight away at the top of the page, and you have a buy now. That's just an option. Okay, find your strengths. I would add call to action to buy under that as well. Okay, launch promos, fantastic. This is great. Okay, so also slideshows are good because you can show multiple pieces of information in the same real estate.
Sorry, Jack, I would actually, if you scrolled up, I would actually change the launch product into bestsellers at the top. Right there, it says launch promos.
Yep.
Just so it kind of calls it like, okay, bestsellers, people are coming back, like it's obviously doing really well, versus launch promos, sounds like it's brand new, which it could be, but bestseller sounds a lot better.
Yeah, bestsellers or popular products or new hot products. So if you're in apparel, you know, everybody's always looking for new. So, you know, latest drop, new products, new designs, all that sort of stuff. This is good. Okay, so here you want to kind of be calling out all the different types of people that use your product here. So you might be calling out home gyms, rehab, stretching, yoga. Like in the bottom of these corners, you can add like who this customer is. And so people can resonate straight away with that. So they can be like, okay, yeah, for people who do yoga, for people who do home workouts, that sort of stuff.
Even targeting people who have remote work, that's really important, or spend time at home, and you can target by ages as well. So if you're using a female, you know, image, you can target women under the age of 35 who work from home, or you know, stuff like that.
And the other thing is, I would move this much further up. So like here, for example, you want to be selling your best-selling product. So whatever has the highest average order value and the highest conversion rate, that's the one you want to feature in your banner. And then straight under that, you kind of want to go into your categories, and then you might want to go into your trending products or hot products or bestsellers. And like this, for example, you know, it doesn't have a huge amount of conversion value. So I would put this further down the page. This is good, Super Loops. I don't really know what Super Loops is. So I'm not sure if you want to probably phrase that to someone who doesn't know what your products are. Again, adding subheadings is a great way to do this. Super Loops, you know, the band you need for XYZ training. So adding in some context about what the product is and how you can call out the customer is always good. Super Loop, amber, purple, okay. Yeah, I would definitely move the categories up further because you might have people who are definitely looking for mini loops or super loops, and they want to know that there's options further up the page, because again, by the bottom of your page, you've got like maybe 10% of your visitors left. Around the world, yeah, this isn't conversion focused, so keep this stuff down the bottom. Perfect. In the footer, I would have options to, you know, instead of just linking to your sitemap, definitely link to your category pages, your product pages, your cart, your terms and conditions, and all that sort of stuff. If you start running ads on Google and that sort of thing, you're going to have terms and conditions pages. So definitely put those down the bottom as well. So just put all the links, because if someone does get to the bottom of the page, they're going to want to go somewhere. You do have the menu here, which is good though. About us, facts, shop now. Yeah, the other thing is adding FAQs is really important, because FAQs, when someone's trying to make a purchase, is gold mine for one, getting feedback. So build your FAQs based off actual questions your customers have in the comments, when you're emailing them, when you're getting responses, when you're getting reviews. Make sure that you've got accurate FAQs that are actually relevant, and then you can include those FAQs to help you write better copy, to help you design better pages, and to help make your messaging more aligned with what your customers actually want to know and what questions they have.
That's actually, sorry, Jack. We had a question about running ManyChat or bot ads at one point. So FAQs are actually a really good way to use it in a bot ad, which is just, you know, the Facebook chat on the site, so people can learn more. It's really pushing the prospecting into a purchase, like people who are like, I've heard of you, I'm not sure, like I need to know more information. That's a really good way to make those ads, but it's a little more advanced. The FAQ helps in both ads to write copy, to understand your customer, and in case you wanted to write bot ads.
Yeah. Okay, guys. I know I've definitely run over. Hans is not going to be happy. But just to recap, keys for scaling: make sure you understand the copy, the offer, and the creative. Focus on those things. Set up your remarketing first. Make sure that you've got that foundation laid, so that you can then start doing prospecting. If you're spending smaller budgets, put all your ad sets under one campaign just to get started with. Small, I mean, you know, less than $100 a month probably. And then data. So always be looking at your account averages, test different images, test different creative. Make sure that your ads are grabbing attention and getting people to your website. If your ads are boring and nobody's clicking on them, then you've got no chance of selling something to them, because they're not even getting to your website. Creative, definitely test the options for video, image. We didn't quite go over dark posting, which is kind of like a more of an advanced feature. We have some stuff that you can look at to do dark posting, because you might have read about it in articles, that sort of stuff. But you can also join the advanced session that we'll do, and we might go over that topic as well. So I've got a little to-do list for you. So if you get the slides, this will be easier to remember. We didn't get time to go over dark posting, so don't worry about number one. Definitely talk to your customers more. Segment your traffic into prospecting and remarketing. Use video. Video is great, or use GIFs on your website. You saw how that website was able to get across the messaging of what the hat does way faster than the furniture or the fitness. Optimize your website for mobile. Most of your traffic is probably going to be mobile. Yeah, keep testing, test, remarketing. Sorry, I'm trying to whiz through this because we definitely went over when I just checked the time. If you guys want the slides, if you guys want to get in touch with any follow-up questions, feel free to hit up the Shopify group. Feel free to shoot me an email. Feel free to ask Hans. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer some questions. And yeah, you can find me, jackpaxton.com. Top Growth Marketing is where Jen works. And yeah, let us know if you've got any questions. I know Jen's been dropping her email in the comments as well. So yeah, let us know if you've got any questions at all, or if there's anything that you guys need more information on, because we kind of just scratched the surface on a lot of this stuff, and there's a lot more that we can go over. So definitely join the advanced session. I think we're doing it in like 2 or 3 weeks. And we're going to run that ad that we made, and we're going to probably report on the results. So that'll be really fun, really interesting. So stick around for that. Whether we make a session about it or we post in the group, we'll let you know. But either way, we'd love to connect, and happy store creation and shopping. See you guys soon.
Thank you. So nice to have everyone.
All right, I got to figure out how to get out of this. Well, Hans, is there anything else you want to do before I hang up? Nope. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.